I think realistically there's not much difference in sixth forms, whether the sixth form's attached to a boys' school, a girls' school or a mixed school. I think sixth forms are incredibly inclusive regardless of which one you're at. So I wouldn't say that my choice in joining the school I'm at currently at KES was necessarily due to the fact that it was a boys' school. I think it just happened to be that case. There's not necessarily a big split between genders that formulated that decision. So I myself went to a private school when I was younger. I think changing schools for sixth form is quite interesting. It's nice. You get to meet new friends, meet new teachers, and engage in different extracurricular activities that you might not have done so from other schools. So I think every school is a little bit different and offers maybe different experiences. So I really enjoyed having the opportunity to be in a different environment. So my experience, I would say, is actually not necessarily greatly different. I think maybe class sizes is one aspect where there is a little variation. The private school I was at had very small class sizes, whereas here they're slightly bigger, but not massively bigger. And I definitely wouldn't say that impacts the quality of education you have. I think grammar schools are more academically selective, whereas with private schools, you can get into them if you have the if you're in a financial situation to pay for them, whereas grammar schools are far more academically selective and potentially have more focus on academics due to that. Okay, so I do English, literature, history and biology for my 3 A levels. So I have a nice mix of science and humanity. And my humanities classes probably average about 15 students per class, which is incredibly small and very good for communication between teachers and students. They all know the students quite well. And then my biology class, I'd say, is probably about 25 students, so slightly bigger, but still very small class sizes. And then the school itself, so we're on quite a large site, I'd say. There's quite a few social areas. We've got a bit of greenery, and the quad, which is almost the centre of the school. We've got the buildings around it, which is nice. It's nice to be able to see lots of different year groups. It's quite a social environment. And because the school itself is rather small, you get to know people in younger year groups and you get to make friends with people of a variety of ages, which is something I really enjoy about the school. Okay, I think potentially the most interesting to look at might be English. So my English classes will go in. We study a variety of different texts. So for example, we study Shakespeare at Shakespeare School, so it's very fitting. And we go through the text, we read it aloud, sometimes we perform it. We interpret it differently, we have class debates. Maybe we'll have a proposed statement and some people be for and against, and you're able to really engage in different ideas through understanding the twofold. Sessions expired.
That's okay. You're fine on this end, so if we can just
sorry,
sorry, my laptop. Sorry about that.
Oh no. Apologies. There we go.
Can I just start in again for us? So just go back to the beginning.
Yeah, no. Okay. So my potentially favorite lesson would be in English lessons. I think there's great variety in how they're demonstrated each time and how they're taught. So ordinarily we'd probably go in, we've got a variety of different texts that we study. We'd maybe read the text, maybe watch a production of the text, try and act the text out ourselves and understand the different interpretations and way in which a text can be received. Then we'd maybe debate different concepts and questions over what we're studying. We might have a proposed statement and have some for and some against, and allow each other to engage in, I guess, proposing and opposing arguments. Quite often we'll maybe write an essay on the subject in which we're talking about in class, as a means of, I guess, consolidating that information that we've engaged in. But the lessons themselves are very interactive and constantly require you to be thinking on your feet, but also enjoying the content in which you're learning. I think there's always pointers and guidance to an extent. However, in humanities subjects, so English, a lot of it's personal opinion and personal belief. I'd say there's a greater element of maybe self-direction, not teaching yourself as such, but navigating your own studies and where they go. History, I would say we stick more to the curriculum. However, we are able to go, if there's a particular area of history that really interests us, maybe we can go home and research and read about that and then present it to the class. So it's very engaging, the learning, and also quite flexible in the way in which it's taught and responded to, dependent on class. And biology, I find obviously is a science, it's far more regimented in how it's taught, but there's still a lot of active engagement within the lessons, whether that's making a presentation or a poster, or on the flip side, maybe doing exam questions and some theory-based learning. Of course. So in biology, and I think that's the same for all science, we don't actually have any coursework. The way in which we get examined is purely through exams ordinarily. For English, we have 2 pieces of coursework, and these only take up 20% of the overall grade. However, they're really interesting because it gives you time in lessons to properly look at a piece of text and appreciate it and write something really, really good and interesting about that specific piece of text. So for me personally, my side of the course, I have a piece of coursework on American literature, and then also a piece of coursework on poetry. And the assessment objectives for these 2 different pieces of coursework are obviously very different. So you're able to develop different skills within the same subject, which I particularly enjoy. And then history, we have what's called an NEA. So it's another form of coursework. And what I really enjoy about the history coursework is it's something completely detached and not related to the actual syllabus itself. It's a subject that interests us. So our school likes to focus on Russia, and we choose an element of Russian society or Russian politics that particularly interested us historically, maybe even currently. And then you have 4,500 words to basically write about it. You have to include different sources, different interpretations, and really get to, I guess, enhance those different skills that come with a history A-level. Yes, so I have applied for university. In the United Kingdom, you go to university after your 2 years of sixth form, and you apply by the end or beginning, so the end of your first year or beginning of your second year, and you apply for 5 different universities. So I have applied for 5, and then after you get either you get accepted or rejected from them, and then you decide which one you're going to firm, so the one you really want to go to, and then which one's your insurance, the one that you'll go to if you don't quite get the grades for that first one. So I am firming Durham University to study law next academic year, which is very, very exciting. So our school has a careers advisor and an immense amount of career support, helping you with what actual GCSEs you're going to pick, what A-levels you're going to pick, and then what degree might interest you. Is university even the option for you? Maybe you want to do an apprentice or maybe go straight into work. So the school's massively accommodating of all the different career paths one can go into, and then as well whittling down and working out what degree is best suited to you. How are you going to apply? Does this work with maybe your style of learning, how you engage with material? So there's lots of support with that. We also run a very effective Oxbridge, I guess, session for applying to university. So Oxbridge is Oxford and Cambridge, and the school's incredibly accommodating with that. They help you write your personal statements. The school obviously writes your reference. They give you interview prep, exam techniques. You're going to have to sit an exam for applying to university. So obviously the school is very, I think over the years they've worked out how best to support students applying to university. And I think that's why there are so many students at our school that go to such incredible universities. I would absolutely say that there are equal opportunities for both girls and boys within the school. It's predominantly a boys' school. There are numerous extracurricular activities. I myself participated in debating, and I've debated at the Oxford Union debates and the ESU, which is the English Speaking Union debates, as well as lots of smaller debates. So that's something I've engaged and participated in quite heavily, and I've really enjoyed at the school. We also have a bar mock competition, which is like it's like a fake mock law case that we go to Birmingham courts to, I guess, to perform and compete with other schools, which we did win actually in our year, which is incredibly exciting. In terms of sport, there's numerous sports. We've got rugby, we've got hockey, we've got fencing, which is really enjoyed by many students here. There's netball, there's, I think, rounders. I think the list goes on. The number of sports is just incredible, and they're obviously gender inclusive for both girls and boys. Other extracurriculars, the music department is phenomenal at Cares. I think it's year 7, every student gets to learn a musical instrument for free, and many continue this on throughout the years. So we have numerous choirs and different bands and musical ensembles. We also have, I think there's lots of math societies, English societies. Myself, last year, I ran an Amnesty International Society and the History Society, which is really interesting. So there's definitely opportunity to be able to, yes, accelerate your learning and what you learn in class through different clubs and societies after school or in your breaks or in your lunch times. And it's enjoyable. It's a way to have fun, speak to new people, and I guess engage with new ideas. Ordinarily, when COVID isn't the case, I think Cares strikes a balance pretty well. It's quite an academic school. When you're in lessons, although there is that element of conversation, debate, and engaging learning, you are there to learn, and you do cover a vast amount of the material when you're in lessons. I myself live quite a long way away from the school, so I do probably spend about maybe 2 hours commuting every day in total. So that was some time that I lost. Last year when I went on the bus, I'd spend that time to do maybe any extra reading I was wanting to do for my lessons. I definitely managed to find a balance with using that time productively for schoolwork. Most extracurriculars at the school are done either in the lunchtime or after school. So maybe instead of thinking my day finishes at 4 o'clock, actually it finishes at 5 o'clock, but this means I've been able to have the full day of studying that I've really been able to enjoy, and also an hour playing sport, or an hour playing the clarinet, or an hour preparing for a debate. So I think by extending that school day by potentially just an hour and a half, by doing these extracurriculars, you still have the time to go home, make dinner for your family, and do your schoolwork too. So I think the school definitely does allow that balance between academic life, extracurriculars, and also things that kids should do at a young age. Go out and play with their friends and go on a run. I think it depends what kind of person you are. I'm quite a perfectionist, and I like to do the best I can and always be prepared and maybe over prepare sometimes. So I think with doing just 3 subjects for A levels, I probably do between 10 and 15 hours prep work or revision work each week for each subject. But bearing in mind we have private study, so study periods throughout the day when we're not in lessons to do this work, it doesn't seem too much in practice.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the head of, I guess, the head student. So it's a voting system. So each teacher casts a vote, and then each student casts 5 votes, I believe. And then there's a ranking system. So whoever comes top of the teacher rank, and they have the list, and then you've got top of the student rank, and you've got a list, and then they combine these 2 ranks. So this year we've got Neely is our head boy. So he came top of both the teacher and the student ranks. And then we have what are called senior prefects. So these are 4 deputies of school. So I'm the deputy head girl, and then we've got 3 other deputy head boys. So ordinarily, through that role, we'd be I guess we'd be on duty in the canteen, helping people at break and lunch times. We'd be attending school events, maybe speaking at school events. I know ordinarily when there are events such as Parents' Evening, you'd help marshal in the car park or serve drinks. And then I think probably one of the biggest parts of our role that does go unnoticed is just working within the school and the community, speaking to people, understanding what's being said within the student body, the student population, and relaying that back to teachers, and it's almost that midway point between teachers and students, allowing that communication and consistency and everyone being on the same page to make sure that everyone's happy and the environment is as efficient as possible. I think it's a position you only take if it's the kind of thing you enjoy. I personally enjoy being able to communicate with people in a slightly different way, having opportunities like this. I think as well it's how you view it. I personally don't view it as work. I view it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to maybe spend time with some of my friends. It's an opportunity to speak to some of the younger year groups as they're getting their lunch. I see it's more of an opportunity than a duty, and I think because of that it doesn't necessarily seem a time waste or a time struggle. So a typical day for me, I'm a morning person, so I like to wake up about 5:30, as I like to have my time in the morning. And I wake up and I either do a workout or a run, something to get me up and out of bed and feeling good. I then make breakfast and do a bit of schoolwork in the morning, as I find that's when my brain's most productive. I then drive into school. We have a place called Manor Road, which is where the sport facilities are for the school. And that also has, I guess, on the street, students can park. So I park at Manor Road and I walk into school, which is probably about a 10-15 minute walk, depending on how rainy it is. Then we have 7 periods throughout the day, of which at the moment are varying in length due to timetable disruptions with COVID. So ordinarily I'd probably have, I don't know, maybe 3 lessons in the day. So let's say I come into school, we have registration. So I'm with a big group of students within my year. We get registered, told any notices, anything exciting that's happening within school that day. And sometimes we're given like a thought-provoking, maybe a quote that will inspire us to be inspirational throughout that, to be motivated throughout that day, or maybe something that's going on in the news, to really broaden that understanding and appreciate a holistic, I guess, view on academics and the world in which we live in. And then we'll go either to lessons or to private study, which is when we've got set time that you can sit in the library and work. So let's say I go to private study for 2 periods. So we're in the library, loads of books, completely new and modern, which is fabulous. Good Wi-Fi, good, I guess, good resources. So we sit there, and our private study, we have a silent, so everyone can be there focused on their work and make sure they can get as much done in the time provided, so that when you go home, you don't have to do so. So work for maybe about 40 minutes, and then we'll have a break. We have a canteen and also like, I guess like a little shop that you can buy pizza from, hot dogs from, sweets, crisps, croissants, have a coffee if you're really feeling tired. So you have a break and be able to spend some time outdoors with your friends, get some fresh air, which is nice. Then maybe you'll poodle off to lessons. You'll have 40-45 minutes worth of lessons. These lessons obviously varying in content and style in which they're taught. Then maybe you'll have another lesson before lunch. And then at lunch, we've got this canteen, we've got a big canteen, and there are various different meal choices. So if you're a vegetarian, there are lots of vegetarian options, maybe like meat, pasta, potato, numerous different types of food to eat, and then lots of drinks and desserts too, which is nice. And what I really like about lunchtime is it's a really sociable time. As there are different people in the canteen every day, you get to speak to different people almost every day of the week. We have long tables that sit loads of us, and lots of people talking. It's not rowdy as such, but it's quite an exciting atmosphere. People happy to be able to speak to one another and also excited for the rest of the day ahead. And then ordinarily, let's say you've got a few lessons after school, after lunch. So maybe going to another lesson, maybe have another private study before the day finishes. And then at the end of the day, ordinarily we'd have either sport activity or a club and society. And then after this, it's probably about, well, the school day at the moment is finishing at 3:40. I think ordinarily it finished around 4. And clubs and societies went on maybe for an hour or so after that. Personally, after my day finishes, I walk back to my car, drive home. I've got a job, so maybe either go to work or do some schoolwork at home, do another workout or a run, just to feel like I've achieved something that day, and then off to bed. Yeah.